Weekly Energy Boost is a 7-day spiritual weather forecast where we aim to provide our listeners with the most practical and powerful tools to navigate the coming 7 days by gleaning through the wisdom of Kabbalah for those practical and powerful tools that are going to help you take advantage of all of the opportunities and navigate away from the potential pitfalls. Inevitably, every week's episode offers you wisdom and tools that you can use any week of the year, any year of your life. Good morning, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, and welcome to this week's Weekly Energy Boost. My name is Elisheva, and I am here with David, and we are talking today about soul contracts with our parents and our in-laws. And this week's topic comes to us in a very unique configuration. This week, the teachings of Kabbalah tell us the different ways that we can elevate our consciousness, elevate the way that we live. Literally, how can we become more holy, more sacred, live a more divinely guided life? And David and I thought it's the perfect opportunity to cover a topic that we have never really touched on, though we've heard countless comments, received messages and emails from listeners, how to deal with parents, how to deal with in-laws, and today is the day. So before we delve into the different opportunities and how to recognize the blessings and curses in between, it's important to remind our listeners, and this is something I think we've shared in multiple episodes before, is that Kabbalah teaches that we choose our parents. The soul, before coming down to the physical reality, before it enters a body, before the baby is born, but even at conception, the soul is looking for the perfect dynamic to come into. And because the soul in that environment, as it's creating the soul contract with the light force of the Creator, it can see from the beginning to the end of the process. It knows if the couple that it's going to come down to is going to get divorced. It knows that the culture and the economic situation and the religion and all of the different dynamics that, you know, if the parents are going to stay together or not, all of that is given. That insight is given to the soul before coming down. So part of our soul contract when we come down is to be entrusted to the parents that we're given to. And as you're listening to this, bear in mind that your partner or your spouse is experiencing the same thing before they come down. And therefore, there is tremendous energetic value in the souls that you choose to raise you and your partner as well. So because of the soul contract between you and your partner and you with your respective upbringers, it's really important to take those opportunities seriously. And if we're concerned with living a more spiritual life, living a more light-filled life, we want to make sure that we're not foregoing any opportunities to bring more light to the process. So that's where today's conversation begins, how we can really utilize our parents and our in-laws as the spiritual tools that they were intended to be.
What does it mean spiritually if you don't get along with your in-laws? What does it mean if your family and friends, despite you being in love and finding a strong connection, are against and oppose your relationship? Kabbalah explains that often when soulmates come together, many negative forces will attempt to stop this union from happening. Often, not always, the parents of either side will fiercely oppose the union. No one in this world can see who is meant to be together. No one can see deeply enough into your souls to know why you have found each other. Only the Creator knows. The secret is, when you feel fierce opposition to a relationship of yours, do not react either way. The answer is not to end the relationship, and the answer is not to shun your family because they don't support you. The answer is prayer. Each and every day, call out to the Creator in your own language to reveal to you the purpose of the coming together of both your souls. Ask the Creator to reveal the lessons that they are trying to be shared by your family and friends. No one truly knows who soulmates are. However, the Creator has brought the two of you together because of a soul contract that must be fulfilled between the two of you. Drown out the noise from everyone around you. Take the time to sit in solitude and ask for divine guidance. There are no mistakes. Eventually, you will be led to your highest good. Just make sure that you are inviting the Creator into your process every step of the way.
Well, I can tell you personally, coming from a divorce.
Did you have opposition?
I didn't. And I was pretty pissed off.
The first
that I
time
didn't.
around.
The first time around, I did not have opposition. It turns out that everybody was opposing it maybe behind the scenes, but felt that they couldn't tell me or that I wouldn't be open to hear it.
Wow.
But I definitely went through a phase afterwards. You tell everybody you're breaking up, and everybody was like, "Oh, I saw that coming.
Really?
Oh, I knew. Yeah, we knew. It was."
How many years were you married?
8,
8. And when did you know that it wasn't going to work out? Because you know what the number one thing I hear when I ask that
7
question?
years? No, I mean, yes, it started to dissolve in the 7th year.
Okay, so you didn't. That's interesting, because when I ask people when they're going through a divorce, when did you know? So many times the answer, more times than not, is before I got married, which is interesting.
That is interesting. I can't say I felt that way, but that's interesting.
And I believe the reason why certain people don't feel that way is because there is a soul contract there, and it is because soulmates aren't just like one person. Every person you're with is a soulmate. Every person you're with has a deep purpose of why the Creator brought you two together. In fact, it's not like it could have been avoided or even should have been avoided.
Absolutely. We had an episode earlier this year, I think in January, where both Rachel Yardeni and I talked about like our previous relationships and breakups and whatever. And it was a lot of people really responded with like, wow, it was so helpful to hear that, because I think, like, as you said, there's no regret. We knew and I don't regret a moment. I knew that it had to be, because not only because of the kids that needed to come from that relationship, that there's no question that
no question
that
about
was
that.
divinely ordained, and there was no way around it, no free will around it. Let's put it that way. But I also can see so much good came from it. Like, one of the interesting things that happens to people, and I feel like this also reverberates into the family unit, to the parents and in-laws and stuff, is when a person is no longer in the relationship, they can't see the good anymore. They negate, they were together 20 years, we were together 8 years. So suddenly all that's left is the horribleness. All that's left is the bad memories.
That's a big problem, because that is karma and tikkun you bring into another life.
Right. And part of I think, becoming or feeling at peace with the past is blessing it. That idea that even though it was difficult, and even though I wouldn't encourage anybody to go into a relationship that are missing certain elements, at the same time, not only we created a family, but we helped so many people while we were together.
Yep.
And I don't want to negate any of that goodness just because the relationship doesn't exist anymore.
What a lot of people don't know, and I don't know if you know this, but your ex-husband was the person who connected me most to Kabbalah when I first came, when I was 15 years old. He was my first teacher.
Oh, there you go.
So there's so much, and I credit so much to him, because he's such a channel to inspire me. And I'm 15 years old. I'm in a room filled with adults who are like 30, 40, 50 years old. I'm the only teenager there. But I felt this profound energy. I said, whatever this man is saying, I feel the truth. It wasn't even about the man. He was a channel for me at that time. And I think that a lot of what our society focuses on is regret. So many of these like TikTok videos I see is, I wasted my time in this 2 to 3 year relationship and it didn't continue. He or she didn't commit, or there was betrayal. And to say that something was a waste of time is basically denying.
It negates whatever.
It negates creation. It negates the whole process of why the Creator even brought all of us together. And there's a process we all need to go through. And we're not smart enough to see past, present, and future. We're not smart enough to see into our soul. That wisdom is there. But anywhere you are, that is where you are meant to be. And every time you think something has been a waste of your time, transform that consciousness. Because if you believe that, then you will have to repeat that process.
That's very scary.
Yeah.
No, really, I hope that everybody's taking it to heart, because we talk about in so many different ways, so many different classes, how consciousness determines our reality. That's a perfect example of how you regard something, how you look at it, literally changes how it impacts you. And when you value it and you understand it was divinely ordained, going back to that whole conversation we started with in the beginning, that sometimes the opposition that we feel or we experience, not only in the beginning of relationships, I know plenty of people 10 years, 20 years on down the line, they're still in conflict or opposition with their in-laws, even with their parents, about the choices that they've made. And the reality is, the Kabbalists teach that because our parents are our first relationship, essentially. I mean, I guess some people are born with twins, but born with a twin or a triplet, so they have a very early connection with them as well. But we learn to give and receive from our parents. And what's interesting, Rav Ashlag talks about it in it's letters that haven't been published in English yet, but there is this idea. Rav Ashlag, the founder of the Kabbalah Centre in the 1920s, explained that, when a parent and a child love each other, right, that's a natural thing. And there is this concern in our early years, and I hear psychologists, psychiatrists talk about this all the time, attachment styles. There is this fear initially of not having their love, not being accepted, not belonging. And so we constantly do things to earn the other's love. So the child will constantly do things to earn the parents' approval, the parents' love, the parents' attention, the parents' acceptance. And the parents are also, if we're honest with ourselves, motivated by, we want our kids to love us, we don't want our kids to hate us, we don't want our kids to exclude us from their lives. So sometimes we make misguided decisions based on the fact that we want to maintain their love and connection. So it's really the parent-child relationship in which we learn how to have a relationship with the Creator. And that's something that I hope everybody takes to heart this week as well, is that even if, and this is maybe a topic we can make sure to hit before the end of the episode, sometimes even parents are no longer in the physical reality. But if your parents are in the physical reality and you have the opportunity to reflect on that relationship, sometimes it's not possible even when they're alive to have a relationship with them, but to recognize that the institution of the parent-child relationship is designed to help us learn how to have a relationship with the Creator. So when you look back and you think about maybe you were the good child who always did everything they were supposed to and always got the praise and always got the love, but therefore there's the residue now as an adult of being the people pleaser or not being in touch with your needs. Or maybe you were the rebellious child and you were constantly getting attention because you were never doing the right thing. Really looking at that as a understanding for the relationship, not only that you have now with your parents or your in-laws, but the relationship that you have now with the Creator, and how healing and working on that relationship can help you have a stronger relationship with the Creator.
Let's talk now a little bit deeper about in-laws. If you have a difficult relationship with your in-laws, your mother-in-law or father-in-law, this is a good sign. Often in-laws are against marriages that have a soulmate connection, primarily because soulmates draw a lot of negative forces to break them apart, and those forces often come through family members. One of the greatest gifts you can give someone you love is to build a bond with their parents. Your in-laws Kabbalistically represent a very strong soul connection, not just to your partner, but to your soul as well. The Creator gave you these in-laws because their soul was the perfect soul to help you get to your perfection. Take the time to learn about what the father and mother of your spouse or partner love to do, what they appreciate, what is important to them, how to honor them and respect them. Take time to bless them, speak to their soul when they aren't around, and surround them with love, even if it's difficult for you. The reason why in-law relationships are often so difficult is because of the great light that is waiting to be revealed when you finally unite with them from a place of love. Share in the comments below what are some of the ways you have found to honor your in-laws, your mother-in-law or your father-in-law. Share in the comments what are some of the challenges you have faced with your in-laws and how you think you can take that first step to create unity and oneness with them. So many people think that the in-laws, in fact, when it comes to most family, keep them away. Keep them away from the nuclear family, from the immediate family. And what I've noticed is, as much as that is true, and you should put your immediate family first, no doubt about that, And of course, you have in-laws that meddle too much. You have in-laws that are problematic in their own ways. I mean, there's a wide variety of flavors of in-laws. One of the things that I've noticed is that the more of an effort you can make to get closer to your partner's mother or father, to actually make that effort, you don't know how healing that is and how much that fulfills the love language of your partner. There's so much you can do for them. You can cook for them. You can bring them gifts. You can spend quality time. You can compliment them. You can make them feel special. But nothing, I want to say nothing, but probably one of the most powerful ways to give back to your partner is to develop and build a bond with their parents. Because that allows your partner not to have to choose energetically between the two. And one of the highest forms of anxiety for someone is, will my partner get along with my mom? Will my partner get along with my dad? Will my partner get along with my cousins or my siblings? Especially if you have a close relationship to them. Now, sometimes people don't have a close relationship to their family and they could care less. Either way, you as a partner should inspire your partner to be close to their family. The whole point here is that we all have soul contracts and we all have a lineage of energy that is flowing through us. We want to mend and heal as many of these bonds as possible because this is how energy flows. If a wire is cut, you simply will not be able to benefit from the energy that flows via that wire. So it behooves all of us when it comes to family and in-law relationships, do whatever we can to either heal it, or if you cannot reach them, if they are not open or if they are not living, we can pray for them. We can surround them with light. We can bless them. We can at least have the intention in our heart that we want to mend the relationship.
So as you're talking, a few people come to my mind, people with either seriously narcissistic, negative, bitter, angry parents or in-laws.
Sure.
And if you would hear the stories, you would definitely say, hard stop, no space for them in your lives. It's dangerous for the kids. Like sometimes, and obviously this is not the norm, but I imagine if I know a handful of people in that situation and I'm only one person, there's many handfuls out there.
Correct.
How do we navigate a relationship with an in-law or a parent where there is literally no one to talk to? Sometimes it's a result of mental illness.
Yes.
How do we take what you just said and live?
So one of the ways is to help your partner heal their relationship with their parents. And often I would ask even, can you share with me positive things that your parents have done? I want to get to know them. I want to respect them, even if I never speak to them. Even if they're not alive anymore, I would love to know and understand who are the people who brought you to the world. If anything, through that you understand the person. I often recommend when people are dating, ask a lot of questions about the parents because you're going to learn a lot about the person you're dating. What was your father like? What was your mother like? What are the top 3 things they taught you? What are the values you took away? There must be something. There's always good. Even if you have narcissistic parents, toxic parents, your parents aren't in your lives, whether it's biological or adopted, it doesn't matter. Tell me something positive that they did for you or that you learned from them. The whole point here is let's extract the good. When you extract the good, when you focus on the good, then everything, your physiology changes, your biology changes, your consciousness changes, the atoms become elevated. Everything changes. The vibration goes up. But it's a conversation we're just not having. We don't think it's that important, or it has nothing to do with my life today. So what do I care about your parents? It's just not true.
It's interesting. I read a book by someone who was adopted, and she, in the book, expressed gratitude to her birth mom for not having an abortion.
Wow.
That her mom
Beautiful.
decided to go through the pregnancy, and for that, she is so grateful.
Just that alone, focusing on the good is bringing so much healing and light to the lineage, into her soul, and to the world.
Well, last year, Daniel Naor was on the podcast, and I don't remember I think he was sharing an example of someone that he had worked with on healing the relationship with the father, who was very abusive.
Yeah.
And one of the things that he recommended, which I think is a great teaching for us this week and in living these principles, is, okay, the father was verbally abusive, emotionally abusive. what's his story? And it turned out when he spoke to this particular person that the father was physically abused. So an understanding that the father was physically abused, he could have gone on to be a physical abuser as well.
That's right.
But instead he chose a higher level. Not the highest, and we don't want to judge him for that, but he probably was doing his absolute best in not repeating what he had experienced, in giving a slightly more gentle experience of it. So I feel like that's a big part of that. If there is that divide between our listeners and their parents or their in-laws, it's to really look at, we're not approving abuse in any way, shape, or form, but to have more compassion in the way that we look at what created that story, right? Assuming they were doing the best with what they were given, it really also helps to heal that bond as well.
Beautiful. And as we close, you brought up Daniel, and I want to share this with people because there's so much to unpack here, and people should do it individually. If ever, and I've recommended hundreds of people to Daniel, if ever you want to go deeper to understand soul contracts and relationships with your parents, with your in-laws, with your lineage, Daniel Naor specializes in this. This is what he spends 98% of his time on. His one-on-one sessions help people break through and go past lives back in time to help heal trauma around lineages. You can go to guidance.kabbalah.com.
We'll put the link in the show
notes. Let's put the link there. I send it to everybody.
Website.
It's guidance.kabbalah.com. Daniel Naor. I know there's a few of our other colleagues.
Tikkun healing.
Yeah, it's called Tikkun healing. There's a lot of colleagues we have who do it. Daniel is just the person I know.
He focuses on the generational healing.
That's right. He focuses on generational
And the family
healing.
dynamic.
That's right. And he lives here in Los Angeles. I know him well. I've sent hundreds of people to him, seen the results, so I have no problem recommending him to everyone.
Absolutely. And no question, this week's episode probably brought up more questions than it did answers. So we want to hear from you. What are your questions? What are your struggles? What are your challenges when it comes to dealing with parents or in-laws? And hopefully we can answer those questions in a future episode. Weekly Energy Boost is available on all podcast platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. You can go to our website, weeklyenergyboost.com, to find that email, the link to learn about Daniel Naor's work, to learn about all the things that we think are important for our listeners to know, as well as search our archives, send us a message, and click the donate button to make Weekly Energy Boost possible. We'll see you next week on Weekly Energy Boost.